if you don't actually try something, then you live with this, I wonder what if, and never knowing. And that not knowing is honestly so much worse than trying something and finding out it didn't work and being like, okay, I can now do something else because I didn't die when I tried that first thing.
Live from the Never Too Late stage in sunny Sarasota, Florida, it's the Never Too Late Show. Tonight's guest proves it's never too late to reinvent yourself and do what you love. And now, helping women turn what now into watch this, here's your host, Teresa Rowena.
She started as a physical therapist and climbed the ladder in healthcare leadership. But the higher she went, the further she got away from her spark. So instead of staying the track, Vicki Landers made the bold choice to step away. She wanted to use her voice as a coach and speaker to get back to helping people be their best and to push for real change in the healthcare industry. She has a wonderful story. Join me in welcoming Vicki Landers.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. I'm going to really enjoy having a chat with you because this is good stuff.
It is good stuff. And it's really great to think about all the people that will be listening to this, and something that you say might be just the thing that they needed to give them that little oomph to go ahead and live their passion.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Tell us about how you got started. That's just a fascinating story to me.
My beginning starts with I became a physical therapist. And I became a physical therapist back in 1993. And I practiced, and I worked in Colorado, and then I moved to the middle of nowhere, California. And I practiced for 11 years. And then I moved back to Kansas City, and I became a leader, which was a lot of fun. So I was a home health clinician, and then I shifted into supporting and coordinating and supervising rehab staff for a home care company. And then somewhere along the way, I decided it was going to be fun to shift into more of an IT role where I didn't have necessarily direct reports, but I was supporting the strategy of the activities for that department. And I was teaching and I was translating IT to clinician, and I was doing all this stuff. And one of the things that I noticed along the way was that you could give a message, just a single one message that was maybe, we're changing this thing in the software. This is why we're doing it. This is how we're doing it. This is when we're doing it. And you could get such different reactions from people. One person would be angry and furious and yelling at you and just, how can you do this to us? You're always doing this. Everything is your fault. And somebody else, their response is, oh, okay, great. Got it. What day is that? Okay. Okay, good. I'm putting it in my schedule. Thank you. And it was just so interesting.
What did you find interesting about that?
Because it's the same event. It's one thing, it's one message. I delivered a singular message. And when you start to see that people have such a different reaction, the curiosity there was just, why is this happening? And then the next step was, how do I support them? Because the person who's so angry and upset and wound up, it's impacting them. It was impacting their ability to take care of patients. And honestly, I wanted that to stop.
Yeah.
I wanted people to actually focus on their job and not focus on how
Yeah.
angry they were about the situation. That got me even more curious about how can I help that? Leadership development. But that's where I ended up getting into coaching and learning more about coaching after I actually had a long conversation with a friend of mine about what she wanted to do with her life. And at the end of that conversation, she says to me, oh, Vicki, you should be a coach. Upon which I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So I started digging into what is actually coaching. And I'm like, okay, so coaching, I may not understand why the people are reacting the ways that they are, but I can help them figure out what's important to them and help them learn more about their reactions and getting over some of their reactions.
There was other things that happened between that time. The curiosity got you going about why are people this way, and then being suggested you become a coach. But so what happened between that? You didn't just walk in and say, I'm leaving, or did you?
Oh, no, there's much happening here. I'm still going to work, and I went to coach training school back in 2020. So I'm still fully employed. I'm working for the hospital, and I became a coach. And then things started to happen more at the hospital with regard to my job and just the direction that technology was heading, and understanding that the stuff that I really loved wasn't going to be the stuff that I was going to get to keep doing. I wanted to teach people. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to do trainings. I wanted to create strategy. And that was being pulled out of my control just because of the way software and technology was evolving. This is nobody's fault. This is just the way it was happening. And I didn't want to do those things. I wanted to continue to do the stuff that I love, which is how I figured out, or how I came to the conclusion that coaching and leaving my employment was actually something that I wanted to do.
Did you feel like your job was in danger at that time? Did you feel like you might be scooting you towards the door, or you felt secure in your job?
I was secure in my job. It's just the functions of it weren't going to be stuff I
They
wanted to
weren't,
do
yeah.
anymore. Yeah,
You're,
no, I was never at risk of losing my job, I don't believe. They did respect me. They respected the work I did and the way that I thought about things and what I could contribute. And when I did tell them I was leaving, they also understood why. Because what I loved and what the job was going to become were not necessarily the same things.
got it.
I just had to figure out how to leave a well paying full time job and go do what I wanted to do, which took me a while.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did people think you were crazy? Were there people going, what are you doing? What are you like
Oh,
crazy?
I had a variety of responses, but most of them, this was the really cool thing. Most of them were like, oh my gosh, good for you. Oh, yeah, you got this. Oh, yeah, this totally makes sense for you that you're going to go off and be an entrepreneur. Now, granted, none of them had any idea what an entrepreneur was because they'd all been full and they'd been employed at an
Yep.
organization for a really long time.
Yep.
But that was so the people around me, they were sad that I was leaving. There was definitely a clarity that they were going to miss having me around and the things that I did for them. But nobody freaked out, which is really weird in retrospect that nobody was, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? There's also a possibility that if they had started down that pathway, I might have just walked away from it and just ignored them because that was so not what I wanted to hear at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really blessed by nobody was like, you've lost your brain, woman.
That's great. Not even family or friends outside of work.
I probably had one friend who is an absolute pragmatist. She's super based in reality. And she's now, Vicki, that this entrepreneur thing is feast or famine. And I know you, and you like security and stability. Have you thought about that? And I had. What I did in order to leave the organization was I actually looked at the time, the housing market was really good. And I owned a house that I had a great deal of equity in. So I actually sold my house so that I could afford to do this and have the stability. Now, that doesn't mean everything has gone great. It doesn't mean that my revenue is where I want it to be now, but it does mean that I have a cushion I still have a cushion that I can use to continue to grow my revenue and do the things that I want to do.
That makes total sense. I think it's also very scary. I think a lot of people, it's like that. They have these resources, but they're hesitant to use them, especially when you get to a certain age. If I may share, today's your
Yeah,
birthday,
it is.
and you are.
I am 55 today.
That's great. Double
Yeah,
nickels. Double
that's
nickels.
right. I've never been 55 before. I'm actually really excited about this next year.
Yeah, it's a great year. It was a great year for me. I think it's one of the pivotal age for women to be in that position. You're obviously older than you've ever been. You've had more experience than you've ever had. You're wiser than you ever were. You have more knowledge. So you have, actually, I would venture to say, I stand on this, that you have more to offer now as a 55-year-old woman than you ever have your entire life.
I would agree because there is so much that I've seen and experienced. And even today, I was reflecting on 55 years of lessons. And I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to write down 55 lessons that I've learned. And it probably took me 40 minutes. And I was still going. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, there is so much that I've learned that has made me be who I am. And I'm also still not done. I'm not done by any means. There's so
No.
much more that I can do, I can experience, and that I can help people. And I think this is super fun age to be. And I'm looking at it with optimism. And I also know that had I still been at my job, I wouldn't have the optimism that I have about being able to enjoy life. I would feel constraints and safe, but trapped.
Oh yeah, I think that's the whole thing about safety is flight or freeze. These are the safety mechanisms and they're designed for that to keep you safe. And it's not necessarily a life you love, most likely not a life you love whenever
Right.
your security and safety are your concerns. Let's recap a little bit. So you started off as a physical therapist. You did that for 11 years. Then you moved into the strategy management software aspect of the
Yeah.
business.
There was a 6-year leadership thing in the middle of that where I was leading the people that had been a clinician with.
And then you noticed these different reactions that different people would have about change and was like, okay, you got really curious about that. And I love that curiosity. It's not like something's wrong, just becoming curious. Why is it this way? And then a whole new path opened up for you, a whole new possibility out of following that curiosity. And
Mm-hmm.
then you found yourself in this position of learning about coaching and becoming a coach. So let's pick up there. So now we're back at you're going to become a coach. You've made up your mind to do that. And you have support. You have support, emotional support from your friends and family and coworkers.
The training I was done in 2020, I actually left my job in 22 to open up a coaching practice, which I did. And then through some interesting series of events, I've actually gone back to the hospital as a contractor a couple of times to just do more work for them. But somewhere along the way, I also figured out that the thing that lights me up the most, the thing that makes me the happiest, is actually speaking and teaching people things so that when I teach or I speak, that they leave the room thinking about something differently so that they can take action on something differently that makes a difference in their own lives and in the lives of other people. And that's the thing that I really figured out in the course of the last 2.5, almost 3 years, is that lights me up and that gets me excited and that keeps me going because entrepreneurship is different than I expected.
How is it different?
It's great in that I am so in control of my schedule. And it's really awful because I'm so in control of my schedule. So it's like I pick the things that I do, and it's like, how do you selectively pick the things that are the quote, the right things that are going to move the business forward? So I love being in control. I love being able to say yes to things and say no to things that fit me. But I also sometimes not having that higher power in charge of you that you're accountable to
Right.
sometimes can allow you to get off track. But I have tools. I have tools around that. I'm two people. I'm CEO Vicki and I am employee Vicki. And CEO Vicky sets the strategy and the plans and tells employee Vicky what to do, and employee Vicky has to report back to CEO Vicky.
Do you have a coach?
I do. Actually, I will never not have a coach. They're just so extraordinarily valuable. It's a space that I can bring out ideas without somebody like imposing their thoughts on me. I have lots of amazing friends that we share ideas and we give advice and that kind of thing. But the coaches that I have, they're true coaches. So they don't give advice. They let me really think about what's important to me and why it matters. So yes, that was my long answer to that question.
Every coach I know has a coach. So I felt like I knew what the answer was before I asked the question, but I just wanted to go
Yeah.
ahead and ask it. All right. So now you got some more clarity. After you stepped out, you and started your coaching practice. That's when you realized that really speaking and teaching were the things that interested you, that lit you up, that really
Yeah.
provided even a bigger spark than the coaching did.
Yes. And I love to coach and I love speaking even more. It's just so fun to watch light bulbs go off in the room on people. People like, oh, because I've done a variety of this stuff. I've taught undergrads, I've taught OT doctoral students, I've taught continuing ed for PTs and OTs for a number of years. And it's just so fun when something makes a connection and I can see it happen. Because that's the whole point. It's not really about me up on the stage. It's about me conveying a message that helps somebody, again, do or think differently so that they can have an impact on their own lives or the lives of the people that they serve.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Definitely, it's a big deal. And there's another thing that I would really like to ask you about, and that is there was this natural evolution from coaching into speaking. But as you well know, as a coach and a trainer, that ahas are wonderful, but there's the implementation of those ahas into life. So is almost as I'm seeing like another opening there. Have you thought about how you might be able to help people implement their new aha moments, their breakthrough, the new things they see, how they can actually implement that into their lives?
So I actually, one of my speaking, it's more of like a workshop that I do, is I include follow-up with people. And so there's follow-up with the organizations, some additional information, and some checking back in and asking about how things, what have you implemented to try to work? Because yeah, a speech that just leaves with aha moments that doesn't change behavior, that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for behavior change and behavior change that makes a difference. So and then I also do follow-up coaching with some organizations as well. So there's a lot of things still in the works as I plan and grow my business, but that is definitely something that's in my head because I don't just want to be a talking head where people are super entertained. I want to make a difference and help them change behaviors.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a vision, a clarity around at least for where you're headed, where you would like to be 3 years from now, what your organization would look like? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do. My vision is that I'm speaking somewhere between 35 and 40 times a year to larger audiences, predominantly in healthcare, because I am a physical therapist and healthcare in the US has some definite challenges that need to be overcome. And we're not going to overcome those challenges if the people who work in healthcare are seeing things from a victim or a blame and complain lens. And so I really want to help the individuals so that the individuals can start to be more curious instead of feeling like a victim, they have curiosity. Because when you have curiosity, you can actually solve problems. So I do not even fathom that I can solve any of healthcare's problems. What I want to do is create spaces where the people who are in healthcare and who are dealing with it day to day, that they can start to see ways to solve the problems within healthcare, and that they can start to take action. Because you can't take action if you're like solely focused inward.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about our audience and people who are listening. There could be people who are very much in the same situation in their mid 50s or 60s or wherever, but confronting the way life is and the pull for things to stay the same whenever they have this yearning, this desire, this feeling in their gut that there has to be more than this and a pull to do something. So I'm wondering is have you found that the more clarity you have around what it is that you would like to do, does that impact your ability to take action or shape your decisions about what actions you take?
It does. And the clarity is not so much about what I do, it's more about how I want to feel.
Oh, great.
Because thinking about the job, and when I was deciding to make a shift and I was going to change, I was feeling sad. I was feeling like I didn't have control over things because I didn't. It was like just this dark. If I stay here, things are going to be dark. And the idea of leaving started making me feel lighter. Now, it was scary. It was absolutely scary. I had lots of moments of, what am I doing? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? First of all, when you actually do something that you're scared of, that bravery, when you get on the other side, it can create momentum. So doing things that are scary creates momentum, but it's the way I feel. And I want more of that. And so that's so much about what keeps me going, is that I want to feel light and bright and excited, because when I'm light and bright and excited, that influences everybody around me more so, well, in a better way than when I'm sad and despondent.
I think that's
Yeah.
great because that's how, like one of the whole things about when we do what turns us on, lights us up, inspires us, it's not work anymore.
Yeah, it's fun. I get up in the mornings, and now the days that I actually get to speak, I'm like, woohoo! The days that I get to sit in front of my computer and reach out to people on LinkedIn, talk to my event planners that I know, look for places that I might be able to add value. Sometimes that gets a little tedious, but always in the back of my head is my next opportunity to speak and influence people.
Definitely the carrot. The carrot
Yeah.
keeps you going. I understand that completely. Let me ask you about that transition here. Was there anything that surprised you about going from working in a corporate situation to being an entrepreneur?
I thought things were going to feel dramatically different. So on the first, I can remember the first Monday that I got up, that I was no longer employed. I was in charge of myself. I was kind of lost. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I had a plan, but what am I doing? And the world didn't end. It was like you feel like you've just made this monumental shift. And so something's going to completely feel massively different. And it didn't. It was just, oh, I quit my job. This is what I'm doing now. And all of these things that I was afraid of, not having insurance, it just didn't feel as dramatically different as I thought. And over time, I'm accommodating to the fact that it wasn't as dramatically different as I thought. And yet there's still this underlying fear that things could still go sideways.
And what do you do whenever that happens, when that fear? How does it feel in your body when that happens?
Oh, the fear of going sideways is lower chest. And because usually it's about income. I absolutely 100% love my life. I am so blessed with amazing friends, amazing family. So the only thing that kind of brings me that sensation of fear is, am I going to have the income perpetuating that I really want? So what do? I'm a meditator. I play music. This is something I've learned fairly recently, which seems like it took an awful long time for a 55-year-old woman to figure this out. But there are particular songs and that will bring me out of my fear mode. And like, fear's not serving you in any way. Just go back and focus on what you need to do. So music, meditation, talking to friends, talking to my coach, all of those things are super helpful to bring me back to, yes, I am living my purpose, and I just need to keep doing it.
That's right. That's great.
Yeah.
So the women that are listening who might be thinking, it's too late for me. You're 55. I'm 65. What would you say to those women who are still feeling that angst, that sense of there has to be more, but I'm stuck?
Yeah, I'm going to say, first of all, it's never too late. We think it's too late, but if we have life ahead of ourselves, I like to think about it as like muscle tissue. So our muscle tissue, as long as there's not some sort of neurodegenerative process going on, we are able to strengthen our muscles up until we die. which means we can change things. We just have to make a choice. Even though we may feel like we don't have a choice, that's one of the fun things, is that we always have more opportunities. We're just not seeing them. And it's scary. And that makes total sense. Something that I actually didn't mention earlier was this book that I read, which is called Unscripted by MJ DeMarco. And it was the book that let me realize that I didn't have to go from high school to college to marriage to kids and job and retirement. That somewhere in there, that wasn't a narrative that I had to follow. So it like opened up my brain to say, oh, there are different things. People are entrepreneurs. People do change jobs and change companies. That thing like shifted my brain to realize that I had choices. And I think that's the thing, is that when you can let go of the stories that you tell yourself about what you have to do and just start thinking about what you could do. And that's just I could. Maybe you don't think you can, but just I could.
I love that. And I also want to point out to everyone that you are a trained physical therapist. So when you say that we can develop muscle up until the day we die, is we have that capacity, that it's not just someone blowing smoke. This is actual true facts. And especially when it comes to our physicality, in addition to not just thinking about what's possible for us, but also in our physicality. I co-authored a book called Leaner, Meaner, Senior. And that's one of the things, a big holdback for people is this thought, I'm too old, it doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
it's just never too late.
It's not. And so there's a friend of mine who just wrote a book, and the book is called The Brain That Chooses Itself. And it's all about aging and the aging process, and how so much of how we here in the US experience aging, that is our expectations of what happens with aging, is really just a result of changing in lifestyle activities. We challenge ourselves when we're kids because we're in school. The structure around us says you got to learn, you got to move, you got to do all these things. You're into athletics, you're into sports, you do all of this stuff because the structure has us do it. And we lose that structure, so we don't get the activity, we don't have the intensity, we are sitting at our desks all the time. And if we actually maintained that same kind of physical, emotional, and educational cognitive interaction, we would actually stay younger longer, stay more capable longer. And it's never too late to start some of those practices, which actually makes a really big difference in our ability to, okay, now we're going to get on my home health soapbox, really big impact in our ability to stay functional, stay in our homes, and continue to get out and do the things we want to do. So there is so much possible for us, regardless of our age. Now I'm going to mention something else. I also happen to have a very super tiny side of my business where I do personal fitness instruction for people over the age of 50. We exercise around whatever disease process they have going on, whether they have MS, whether they have rheumatoid arthritis, whether they've had joint replacements. So it's possible to stay and keep moving and stay active, even in spite of some of the stuff that happens because we age. And when we start to do this, our attitude shifts and we can like really, it's really very exciting. I get clearly excited about this. Can you tell?
I can, and I love it. I love it. That brings me to this other question. What one small action would you tell a woman listening to this if she's scared but itching to reinvent herself or make a difference, whether it's physically, emotionally, or in her work? If anybody wants to start making a change, how do they start?
Honestly, I think the very first thing, and I didn't do this for a long time, is listen to yourself. There's a voice inside of you saying things, and you're not listening to it. We think and then we shut ourselves down and we start to have an idea. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I won't do that. No, that won't work. Let that thought just sit with it a little bit. See how it feels. Because if you let those thoughts happen, you can start to get a little excited, and then you'll start to see how you might be able to make that thought work in your life. So I think that's the first thing, is that just to listen to that and sit with the thought and what it's telling you, not the intrusive ones to tell you why it won't work, but just listen to what your heart is saying and give yourself the space to do that. And I think that's honestly the first thing that people have to do.
I love that. And it leads to one of my favorite things of whenever I ask myself, and others for that matter, in my coaching practice, is like when somebody says, oh, I can't do that, or I don't know if I can do that. If you were going to get $1 million if you did it, do you think you could?
That's a great question. Can I borrow that?
Absolutely. It just changes everything whenever someone looks at it from that perspective. It takes away all of that stuff. And maybe $1 million won't motivate someone, but whatever would motivate them. I know $1 million would motivate probably most people, but whatever would motivate you. If you could obtain that, if you got that done, could you get it done?
Yeah. And that's a beautiful question because then it really speaks to that thing is really important. And if the answer is no, it's okay, maybe that thing's not as important, but it gives you the drive to figure out how to do something. And a lot of this is really just figuring out how to do it. When I was figuring out how I was going to leave the job a year before I made this decision, I never would have considered selling my house. Because of course you don't sell your house. That's what you do. You buy a house and you live there and you pay it off and you do all those things. And I was like, okay, wait, what is possible? Oh, there's a story I'm telling myself I have to do this. So it's like recognizing these rules that we've put on ourselves and then start to dismantle them. It opens up all sorts of opportunities.
I totally agree. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important for people, women particularly, to get in touch with their passions, what turns them on, what lights them up, whether it be dancing or taking guitar or joining a choir or becoming a political activist or becoming a big sister. These kinds of things that speak to us, that pull us, but we say no to, don't even give it a chance. And that's where that angst lives. That,
Yeah.
that, that is this all there is? And then the voice of, you could be a big sister and help kids. Oh, shut up. I don't want to take that on. So it's just, we keep ourselves in a box by our mindset. And I love talking to women like you who've broken beyond that, who broke through and are really creating a life that they love, a life by design, not by default. You're
Yes,
designing your life right now before our very eyes.
I am. And I plan on keeping doing that because that's fun. I do periodically toy around with the idea of, oh, well, I could go back and get a job. But that's literally how it feels. I could go back and get a job, but I don't want to. So I'm
Yes.
going to figure this out. This is my
Yes.
$1 million. I'm going to figure this out because this is what lights me up. And I only get one life. I want to live it. I don't want to be afraid of things. I don't want to stay in this scarcity mindset. I want to live. I want to say,
Yes. I tell you, we could just keep talking
I
forever. I
know.
love this conversation and I love having it with you. And I'm so happy you were here as a guest and that we could share this with our viewing and listening audience. And part of what we do here on the It's the Never Too Late show is that we have our rapid fire questions. And so I'm going to be asking you to play along with us and answer these questions for you. First one is easy, easy peasy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee in the mornings and tea at night before bed.
There we go. The last thing that made you laugh out loud.
This one's going to sound a little bit weird. I was out shopping last night with a friend of mine, and he's having a party, and we were like doing all the party planning stuff and picking up a whole bunch of stuff. Came back to his house, he was going through his cabinets, and we got on this little track of, does this have an expiration date? Is it expired? Maybe we should throw it out. And he turns and has this bag of cranberries in his hand, and he looks at me. He's like, "Do cranberries expire?" There was something about the moment. I started laughing really hard. Can't explain why, but it has to do with expiring cranberries. And cranberries don't expire. They have a best by date,
Yeah.
in case
And
you're wondering.
they rot if they have expired. They have a natural,
Yes, they do.
have
They
a,
might dry out and get hard. And
they have a way of excusing themselves, right? All
yes,
right. Okay. How about this one? If your life were a movie, what would it be titled?
what the hell is she doing?
Love it. What's something you believed at 30 that you don't believe now?
I probably believed at 30, I was still in the midst of you have to be married, have a job. Oh, yeah, at 30, I still thought I had to have kids. So there's this list of living out the script that I had told myself. And I know better now that I create the script. I don't have to follow the script that I internalized from outside of me.
That's pretty powerful right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your favorite guilty pleasure?
Andy's ice cream. Actually, it's Andy's custard. And it's custard, and I put waffle cone and Heath in it. Love those things.
It sounds diddly delicious.
It is.
Okay, so if you could have dinner with one person, living or not, who would it be?
So I am so impressed with people who have skills and talents that I don't have. So the person that I would want to actually meet, he's alive. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda, the gentleman who wrote Hamilton and the music to Moana and In the Heights. I would really love to meet him, but I don't want to do it in like a celebrity kind of way. I want to meet him because we're doing something together and I get to experience the way his brain works.
So you'd be cooking dinner together.
Yes, that's what we would be doing. Perfect.
Excellent. I would love to be sitting there waiting to eat with you. So that would be a great evening. All right. And so here's the last one. What's your favorite joke or riddle or saying, whatever, something that always makes you smile?
Okay. So what happens when you cross a dyslexic and an agnostic?
Tell me.
somebody who wonders if there really is a dog.
I love that. Love it.
I think it's a dad joke, but I've
I
always
don't
liked that
care.
one.
I'm a sucker for puns and dad jokes. I love them, love
Me
them,
too.
love them. Vicki, it's been such a pleasure having you here with us. And I'm sure that your experience has had an impact on some of our viewers and listeners. And I'm hoping that maybe you'll come back again in the future.
I would love to. I really enjoy things like this. I hope that I've had an impact on somebody. And honestly, if I have had an impact on them, I'd love to hear from you. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hang
Yeah,
out and talk with you today. It was a good
yeah.
time.
Which brings up another point I forgot to mention. We'll have all the details about how to get in touch with you in the notes here. Also, you can go ahead and tell people if they would like to get in touch with you directly. What's the best way to do that?
The best way is just my email address, which is Vicki, Vicki, at VickiLanders.com. Super easy. And that's probably the best way. I have a website. It's VickiLanders.com. You can find out about my speaking gigs and what I'm doing there. But yeah, just email me. I love to hear from people. I'm a connector. I love to connect other people and I love to learn about other people. I'm hoping I've impacted somebody in a positive way today.
I certainly believe you have. You have me. So I
Cool.
loved our conversation and being here with you. So thank you again. Have a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us on It's the Never Too Late Show. Subscribe and share the spark, because reinvention's more fun with friends. Not sure what your spark is? Take the quiz at itsthenevertoolateshow.com. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and we'll catch you later. Gator.